it's a perfect time for Democrats to make change because you just got tronched in the polls everywhere across the board. You lost. It's like, hey, you know what? Why don't we all come together and make some changes? You know, like we tried that, you failed, you got beat.
Yeah.
Where's my MAGA hat when I need it? You know.
The bullshit is bigger on the Republican side. You got Lauren Boebert giving a hand job out at a Broadway show.
Politicians are inherently hypocritical. It's like, well, there's something wrong with you.
What is your agenda? I really like this border czar guy. No, I'm not giving you a chance if this is what you're gonna do with it.
It ain't never gonna happen. Getting back into politics,
Yeah.
the funny thing about you and me is that we view the world so differently. And a lot of people view the world differently. That's fine. But we grew up in the same house. I think we also share the same embryo. Is that how identical twins work?
Yeah.
But all of our life was exactly the same. Same parents, same school, same religious upbringing. And yet, somehow later in life, we see the world differently on the political lens.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask the question, like, how does that happen? Because I will say this, maybe to your credit, you're being a more independent thinker than me. We grew up in a very Republican household.
True.
We voted Republican along with our religion. So I have not swayed from that, but you have. So what was it that compelled you to become a part of the Democratic Party when we've had the exact same upbringing all the way through?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that it was, if there's a specific thing I can point to. Maybe getting a little bit outside of the religious bubble helped a lot because, as you pointed out, you cannot be a Baptist and not be a Republican. I remember them from the pulpit were telling everybody how they were going to be voting in code so they didn't lose their tax-free status, but making sure that everyone knew who the church was going to be supporting and voting for. And even today, it's always clear who they're going to be voting for.
Just the voter guide. We're not saying who to vote for, it's just the voter guide.
Yeah.
We're guiding you in your decisions.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, 100%. Or we happen to have a candidate.
These are the
with
people
us.
who align with Jesus Christ. So do what you want to do with that information, but they do align with Jesus Christ, just so you know.
I mean, I feel like we were forced down the path of being Republican, and the evangelical church goes down that path almost for one reason only. And that reason, since we've been kids, has been abortion. Whichever party didn't support killing babies, or actually supported not killing babies, we were going to vote for that party. And that was the Republican Party, right? For some reason, you know, if you're a Republican in office today, like, they all put on this facade like they're good Christians. Like Trump's favorite book is the Bible. Favorite book is the Bible. Can't quote a verse, but it's his favorite book. He loves it. And I was watching a clip when they were asking him about just his views on Christianity and all that kind of stuff. And all he can talk about is how much the evangelicals love him, because that's all he has. That's all he has. So they'll support, I think, just as a...
Let's just say one point on that, because politicians say shit that they don't mean, that they don't believe, on both sides, and nobody calls out both sides. It's just, oh, Trump's not a Christian, all these Christians voted for Trump. It's like, come on, we know.
No.
We know.
No, the bullshit is bigger on the Republican side. I don't think you can really counter that. Maybe you can give me an example where the bullshit is at the same level. But for these people to all act like they're good Christian people when you got Lauren Boebert giving a hand job out at it during a Broadway show, you've got people like Matt Gaetz who, I mean, the number of accusations, and you'll see the sexual misconduct accusations on both sides, where what I haven't seen yet is a whole bunch of Democratic allegations that are related to underage kids. That seems to be a very Republican thing. Now,
absolutely, it's a very Christian thing to have a problem with.
It goes,
it's Christian,
it goes
it's
along
Catholic.
with the church, I guess. So you can you can see that.
Look at it. If you go through just any historical text,
Yeah.
anywhere that there was religion, there was abuse of young children that went along with it.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was. There's some really messed up minds out there. Now I can separate the crazy from the rest of the party. The same way I give you the grace of separating Antifa from the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge your vote and say that, like, oh, so you're good with Antifa?
Yeah.
You know, like, that to me has to be separated from the crazies that are out there. And I think the biggest problem that we have is that both sides look at the other party's fringe element and say, you are that.
Yeah.
Wait, why would
Yeah.
you be a Republican? You're a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Why would you be a Democrat? Like, you like killing babies?
Yeah.
You like drinking their blood afterwards? And, that whole, that governor of Virginia that comes out, like, we keep the baby warm, we give him comfortable, and then we slit its throat, right? That's how it was heard
Yeah.
to Republicans. And Bill Maher does a great job of articulating this point. For the single issue voters who are out there, they know Trump's not a Christian. They know that Trump's not like this evangelical guy. He holds the Bible up as a politician, sure. But it's not really about that. They think abortion is murder.
Yeah.
And when you think abortion is murder versus it's not, these are not people who just are idiots. They view the issue very differently.
Yeah.
And if you think something has so much gravitas to it as murder, then that allows you to be a single issue voter for that.
Yeah, okay. Well, think about so this is where I say the bullshit comes into play, right? Because, okay, if you're calling it murder, I can work with that. I can really work with that. But the number of times that Republican politicians have been caught and their mistress is now pregnant and they're forcing them to get an abortion, or they have now paid for them to get an abortion, it just happens so much that I don't buy the argument that they think it's murder. I think the evangelicals think it's murder.
It's not the politicians. It's not the politicians.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. Politicians are inherently hypocritical.
Yeah.
It's part of what you get. Think about the person who becomes a politician. They only think about themselves.
Yeah.
That's who becomes it. Because think about who are the people that want to put themselves out there, not like a social media influencer and just make some videos and see who responds to it, but they know that by taking a stand where they do, 50% of people are going to hate them.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
if they're lucky. That's if they're lucky. A lot of people, it's a lot more than that. Like that 30% approval rating is kind of across the board. People in your own party don't even like you. So you have to be someone who's so into you that feeds off the numbers of those votes that you're getting, that it's already an unhealthy thing to get to in the first place, where someone says, I want to be a politician. It's like, well, there's something wrong with you. Those people as representatives of the people, yes, they're hypocritical. They are extremely flawed. Mm-hmm. But the people that they represent and the ideals that they represent, I think is the bigger issue here. Because, yeah, I know my politicians don't actually share my views, but they've committed to vote a certain way and move my agenda forward.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, remove the man from the ideals of what he's saying he's going to support.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That's how I'm going to vote.
So what is your agenda?
I'll tell you this. I come out as a Republican, but what I really am is a libertarian who lives in the real world.
Okay.
I'll put it to you this way. I go to the park this morning with my daughter, and I'm pushing her on the swing. And I think to myself, I think government is way too big. This whole Ramaswamy Musk department of, what is it? The Doge Department of Government
Efficiency.
Government efficiency.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. But that's the libertarian in me. Hates taxes, hates government. But I do recognize that there are areas I do want the government to be involved.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I know on that playground, there's screws on the playground regulated by the local government that ensure that not just anybody with a screwdriver can come and unscrew that thing. So I have confidence when I'm pushing my daughter on the swing that she's not going to fall off and hit herself in the head and die because somebody messed with that swing.
Right.
Someone's coming out and regulating that from the city to make sure that all the screws are tightened up, that everything's safe for everyone. I like the government being involved in that. Barack Obama did a great series on Netflix where he showcased other areas that the government's involved, and all the libertarians kind of like, I hate government, but I do want you doing that job.
Uh-huh.
I want you in the meat factory, ensuring that we don't have different types of bacteria that the company that is slaughtering the animals couldn't give a damn about, but the government does to prevent widespread outbreak.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to think about E. coli every time I'm looking into the leafy greens department and we're regulating that the animals and the cows are separated from the produce that's being created.
Yeah.
That's the government that does those jobs. So when it comes to health and safety, I have to be a realist, even though I would say there should be no income tax, There certainly wasn't 120 years ago. And I also think that the government is way too inflated. But how big is too big?
Yeah.
I think you know it when you see it, and it's certainly here right now, but I can't define that. So I am a libertarian. I don't like big government, but I also have to live in the real world and recognize that we do need regulations, we do need health and safety, and there are a lot of other roles of government that I would probably come out and say I don't like.
Yeah.
And then when you tell me what those government officials do, I'm kind of like, no, keep that job. Keep that job.
Yeah.
Okay? It's all the rest of the ones. But I will say this. As someone who came in the military, spent 5 years in, seeing firsthand the massive amount of waste in our military, of supplies and personnel. The number one job of the military is to be prepared to go and fight the nation's wars.
Yeah.
Here and abroad. And when I know that only 50% of the people and the equipment that were in the yard that I was working in, of trucks, weapons, all of it, were actually deployable and able to go fight a war, you say, well, what are we doing? Like, who's validating this?
Yeah.
Who's auditing this? If I got a third of the people in my battalion of 1,000 people that can't even do the battalion run, where we're running at like a 15-minute mile pace.
Yeah.
And these are people that we're paying tax dollars to make them deployable. So I see all of this waste that's out there, and I know that my tax dollars go to support that. And that's where, as a libertarian, it drives me absolutely insane when you see it. But then there are a lot of roles that you do see that you find out like, but they're also doing this. They're also doing that. Okay, well, hey, I'm a libertarian, lives in the real world, and I identify as a Republican.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Okay. That's interesting.
Where do you find yourself at?
No, it's interesting because you call yourself a Republican, but you can kind of see yourself as more of a libertarian. I would say I caucus with the Democrats, right? But this is really fascinating to me because you were talking earlier about, like, we've got the extremes on both ends of these parties, right? It's called the 20% in the left and 20% on the right, and like, I think the average person doesn't feel that their party actually represents their views. And I also believe that the average person is interested in common sense politics, which from that standpoint means that we are fiscally conservative and we're socially a little bit liberal. There's some people who need help. Some people need a hand up. It's nice to have a safety net in your country. Like, that's what a lot of these entitlements were created for and have just been really abused at this point. And so it kind of illustrates to me, because I feel very similarly to you. Yes, I'm a Democrat, but I can see a lot of the points that I hear my Republican counterparts making, and I'm like, man, like, yeah, there's some truth to that. There's, like, I don't know if we need to go this far with it. This is what it illustrates to me. It is high time in this country that we actually have a third party that actually matters. And I think that millennials could be the generation that could actually get this done. Because there's a bunch of stuff we could agree on where the party platform is fiscally conservative and socially liberal, but doesn't have the extremes from either side, but just focuses on the common sense stuff. Like, can we get some background checks done for people so they can't get assault weapons and shoot our kids at school? Like, it's just like basic, easy stuff that one party that the majority of Americans fit into could actually get done without the riffraff from both sides. And then maybe we can rethink some things, because maybe we look at and say, geez, maybe we shouldn't let Supreme Court justices just sit there forever and die at work. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe we should have some term limits. Oh, by the way, maybe term limits should be universal across the board, so you don't have a Nancy Pelosi and a Mitch McConnell. There's no reason why these people should still be serving. And it ends up in a situation where they're no longer serving and representing their constituents. They're supporting the lobbies that they support and that support them, and who's going to make sure that they pay for their book deal and all that stuff in the future. When you spend 30, 40 years in government, it's just too much. It should be much shorter. Maybe you can do an 8-year stint representing your community. And maybe that's it. Same thing, maybe you can spend 8 years in the Senate. We only allow 8 years in the presidency, so we already have some common sense kind of basic parameters set there that there is some period that's too long for people to stay in power, but that only applies to one job? Like, what's that about? So I think it would be pretty easy to put together a party that actually represents the majority of people, because there's a lot of people who are like us, where I say I'm a Democrat and you say you're a Republican, but in reality, I think we agree on more than we disagree on when it comes down to the issues.
I don't think you're wrong about that. But I also say it'll never happen. You can't mobilize enough people to actually stand up a party. Better people than us have tried and failed with these common sense issues that pretty much everybody agrees on. Look, if I went out on the street today and I asked people, hey, are you good giving Ukraine dollars or tax dollars? You'd probably get 50-50 people being like, yeah, I'm good with it, I'm bad with it. Okay, all right, let me ask the question a different way. Are you good with us giving Ukraine billions of dollars when we have plenty of issues here that we could be spending that money on? And oh, by the way, when I say we give money away, we're giving away your tax dollars. So when your check got taxed, that got sent to you. Do you care about that now? I guarantee you we're at 90% of people who are kind of like, no, I'm not for that. I'm not for that.
Yeah.
And yet, almost $100 billion has been sent of our tax dollars to go and fight a war that Americans don't care about. But there's some bureaucrats and the politicians that we elect that tell us that we have to fight the war of democracy here, so we're not going to have it fought in New York City or on the shores of Los Angeles. Like, okay, come on.
But we agree on that.
We agree on those issues.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, I agree with pretty much all of your issues that you brought up. I will say, though, that with the Supreme Court, this is a funny one to me because, like, well, why would I, what term limits? My side's winning right now. why would I do that to myself? Okay? Yeah. And that attitude right there is that wherever you have a leg up, people are like, well, why would I leave what I've got if I'm in the lead?
But
that's why a third party will never work.
But that's why this is the perfect time to do this, because America is at that 50-50 split, right?
It's a perfect time for Democrats to make change because you just got tronched in the polls everywhere across the board. You lost. It's like, hey, you know what? Why don't we all come together and make some changes? You know, like we tried that. You failed. You got beat.
Yeah.
Where's my MAGA hat when I need it? You know.
I would look. I am probably different than a lot of Democrats in that I am looking forward to giving this Republican administration a chance. Yeah, we got trounced. Nothing we can do about it now. You lost the presidency, you lost the House, you lost the Senate. Like, so now you have everything. You got the legislative, judicial, executive branch. Like, you got it all. What are you going to do? How are you going to make my life better? You only have 2 years. You only have 2 years, because we've seen this time and time again whenever there's one party rule, and this goes back to when Biden won and when Obama won, and then I think even when George W. Bush was in, we saw the last time that Republicans had this. The midterm elections are going to be bloody unless you actually get something done. And we've never seen one party rule actually be able to deliver for the American people. So here, I sit in the seat today to say, okay, we lost. Deliver something. I'm looking at the people.
It's not going to happen.
But hold on. I'm looking at the people who are being picked to go into these seats. And I will say, as a Democrat, I'm watching some of these names come across. And I'm like, okay, Pete Hegseth, wow, Fox News contributor or host of a show. Okay, like, that's weird, but kind of what you just said, let's give him a shot because he served in the military. He knows what things are wrong with the military and he can fix it from the bottom up. Okay, that might be interesting. Everything was going fine. I was reluctantly accepting everybody. I'll tell you who I like. I really like this border czar guy. I mean, I've seen him sit in some hostile interviews and he just hits people with it straight. And after watching him, I'm like, yeah, maybe we should have a wall. Like, we need to make sure that people come to this country legally and go through a port of entry. Like, there's no reason why you should be walking across a river over some barbed wire and entering the country. I'm saying that as a Democrat. We have an asylum system, enter through a port of entry and use the system. It needs to be fixed, but that's fine. So I'm stomaching everyone. I really like him. Everything was going fine until they brought up Matt Gaetz. And then I'm just like, No, I'm not giving you a chance if this is what you're going to do with it. We were just talking about this guy a few years ago, taking kids across state lines, having sex with minors, being investigated, and you're going to put him up for attorney general? And
Allegedly.
Allegedly. We were talking about it.
All charges were dropped.
Right.
All charges were
Charges
dropped.
were
Let's just leave
dropped.
it. Now, look, I agree with you. I texted my wife the moment that Trump announced Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
I'm at the gym. I see this come across. I text her and say, "What is this guy doing? Like, are you kidding me? Like, what a joke. We're going to take a Fox News host and make him, like, maybe Hannity can be Secretary of State. You know? Why not have Tucker Carlson be the vice president while we're at it?"
Yeah.
Like, if that's how we're treating it, yeah, a lot of Republicans looked at that too and was kind of like, wait, him?
Yeah.
Like, why? That doesn't make any sense. Now, we voted for Trump. We knew what we were getting when we voted for Trump.
Yeah.
We knew there was going to be chaos like this. Hey, I'm glad there's Senate approval for these positions that really, really matter. Because I also think Matt Gaetz would be a terrible pick for Attorney General. Now, what I do know, I understand why Trump would pick him, because I am on the side of thinking that Trump is getting at the raw end of the deal of the legal process and wants someone who's just loyal to him, who says, hey, you're not coming after me, right? Okay? Because, like, you're my guy.
Yeah.
You're not coming after me. That's why you pick someone like a Matt Gaetz, who also has his own legal issues that are going on in order to make sure that everyone's taken care of. Now, I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. But to your point earlier about them having control of the Senate, the House, the Supreme Court, and the presidency, I promise you, nothing's getting done.
I agree.
And I promise you in the midterms, it's going to be a bloodbath, and the Democrats are going to win control of both the House and the Senate. I promise you this is going to happen, because I think that these elections have little to do with the candidates who are running, and it has everything to do with the people who are living in an environment that either they like or they don't like.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it's a lot easier to complain about what you don't like than the things you have that you do like. And so there's always this referendum on the party that's in power right now and what's going on. Look, Biden supposedly got 80 million views or 80 million votes. He supposedly got 80 million votes in the 2020 election. Now, I accepted that at face value. I thought Trump went a little bit too far with this whole stop the steal, and but then I see the numbers from previous elections and then this election, and it's like, wait a minute, 74 million, 80 million, 74 million. It makes me question the 80 million, but again, I'm a realist. I'm a reasonable person. And so I say, okay, what also happened? Oh, COVID happened. Okay, everybody was uncomfortable in 2020. Hated what was going on. I think that election had nothing to do with Trump, had nothing to do with Biden. It was just, hey, my life sucked the last 6 months. And I want to complain to somebody. We all turned into a bunch of Karens. We came out to the polls, and millions of more people came out on the Democratic side saying, we want change. Like, I'm not saying I want this guy, but I don't want what I just went through.
And they made it easy to vote by mail.
You see what happened? They made it easy to vote by mail, so it was easy to become a Karen, and all the Karens came out and they voted. But then this election, everyone's feeling the same thing. They're feeling the pressure at the gas station, pressure at the grocery store. Everything costs more. I don't think people just like Trump more this time. He won the popular vote because it was like, hey, Biden, I'm blaming you for this economy that I'm living in, and my money's not going as far as it used to. I think it has nothing to do with the candidates and everything to do with the fact that, no, I just want to complain to somebody. And the only way I can complain that people can actually hear me in this country is by casting my vote. And so Trump wins the popular vote in America. Like, the first Republican to do that since who? Bush? Reagan? Like, I don't know. But it's just, that's just my opinion. So that we're not going to do anything with it.
Nothing's
going to get passed.
No.
And if you're going to blame Trump for the same things that Biden's being blamed for right now, and you're going to see a bloodbath for Republicans in 2026. Wow. Mark my words.
It's going to happen. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to actually get done. But one thing I've been chuckling at myself on is just chuckling to myself. I hated last year, the year before, when they were talking about Bidenomics. Bidenomics, things are working. And I think that, like, elites, especially like people who are multi-millionaires, what they don't understand about the average person is that when we say economy, we're talking about something very different than what you're talking about, right? Biden's looking at how many jobs have been created and what's the unemployment rate and all this stuff. But how's the GDP look and how's the stock market? That's the economy for a lot of people, the donors that he's talking with. Meanwhile, the average person, they completely missed out on, wait, childcare is how much now? Eggs is how much? Lumber to build a house is how much? Gas is how much? And they were missing it the whole time. I still see people now, after the election, who are still confused, like, I don't understand. Like, we had a good economy. What are people so concerned about? And here's the thing. I make a great income. You make a great income. I've been feeling a pinch for the last year or two. I feel the pinch. It's not about affordability. It's just about, is it even worth it for me to go out to eat if just me and my wife going out to eat is $250? Like, is it worth it to go out to eat? Or should we just go to Chili's? Like, why go somewhere nice?
Where's that 2 for $20?
You can get the what was it? The chicken fingers, I wanted to call them the chicken cluckers. I can't remember what they're called. Crispers, chicken crispers.
I don't know what it is.
Chicken crispers. Yeah. It was a good meal. It's a good meal. I think you can still get the whole thing for like $12 plus you get a dessert with it. And it's like, why are we going out to the sushi place? Like, is the food that much better? But even other stuff. I'm watching the credit card bill on a monthly basis, and I'm like, we're not doing anything different than what we did before. And all of a sudden, like, it's just an extra 25% every single month. So I know if I'm feeling the pinch and you're feeling the pinch, that the everyday American, it makes total sense to me why they would say, let's just give Trump another shot. Because I had more money in my pocket when he came into the presidency. And I'd have to agree with him.
I have to throw this point in because I agree with you. I'll say first things, people vote with their pocketbooks, but not me. I did much better under Biden than I did under Trump in the first place.
Okay.
But I don't attribute that to Biden whatsoever at all. Like, I did that. Like, you made more money than Biden, you made it to Trump. You did that.
Yeah.
People at our age, from 30 to 35, are going to make more money than they did in their 20s.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with who's president. You're just getting better at what you do and adding more value to the marketplace.
That's different from things
That's just
being cheaper.
the way it is.
That's different from things being more expensive or cheaper, though, right?
It is. So, how much of it, though, when you feel the pinch, when I feel the pinch, when our friends who have affluence are feeling the pinch, how much of it is the cost of bread and cheese and gas versus what wasn't a big deal in 2018 that is now? Oh, wait. Why would I go to the grocery store myself? If my time is so valuable and Instacart can bring it to me.
Yeah.
Okay, it's one thing for you to say that, one thing for me to say that. I got a lot of friends who probably shouldn't be using Instacart because their time is not more valuable than going to the store and getting it themselves, who are saying, oh, well, I got to value my time, so I'm DoorDashing, I'm Instacarting, I'm doing these things that didn't exist before because the quality of life has risen for everyone where you don't have to go out and do chores or go do the errands that we used to do on the weekends with our parents when we were growing up. Somebody else will do that for you in the gig economy. Like, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I think lifestyle creep was 50% of the problem. Inflation was the other 50%.
Okay.
And that the reason that we feel the pinch is that, why would I cook for myself? I'll go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, my time is too important to cook.
Yeah.
My time is too important to go grab my own food. So we pay 25% more. We talk about inflation, and inflation is real.
Yeah.
I just provide some different perspective that people also increase their lifestyles that never should have increased their lifestyles. You don't need an Amazon Prime membership if you're living in poverty. Why do you have one?
Yeah. Look, I think that's fair because everybody kind of upgraded their lifestyle during COVID. And a lot of products and services came out during COVID when everybody was at home that made your life easier. So, yeah, I think there's some lifestyle creep there for sure. But look, I'm not going to finish the politics conversation without saying I do think we can get another party done. I think someone needs to step up and make it happen. It needs to be a millennial. It needs to be someone who can lead. We're going against term limits. We're going against gerrymandering. We're going to be socially liberal, fiscally conservative. And look, the American people are ready for it. So it just needs to happen.
I would join that party.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. But I will say here, it ain't never gonna happen.
I think you're right.